Congratulate the Progressive Caucus on producing a budget that actually addresses our crushing deficit, unlike the President's budget. Their budget produces deficit numbers that are right in line with the House Budget Committee's path to prosperity. The difference between the two is that the Republican plan reduces the deficit by reorganizing our government services in a much more efficient and streamlined structure, saving trillions of dollars, while the progressive Democrats would radically increase spending, supported by $6.8 trillion in new taxes over the next decade. Now, what does that mean in real numbers, $6.8 trillion? It comes to about $22,000 of taxes for every man, woman, and child in America, about $88,000 for a family of four. Now, don't worry, we'll be told, we're not taxing working-class families, just rich people and corporations. Well, let's get a few things straight here. First, it turns out that many of the rich people aren't rich, and they aren't even people. They're small businesses filing under Subchapter S, the very same small businesses that we're depending upon to create 2/3 of the new jobs that Americans desperately need. Now, to whack small businesses with crushing new financial burdens and then expect them to create more jobs is simply absurd. Second, remember that ultimately businesses do not pay business taxes. Business taxes can only be paid in one of three ways. They're paid by consumers through higher prices. They're paid by employees through lower wages or no wages at all as jobs disappear. Or they're paid by investors, mainly pension plans, through lower earnings. That's the only three ways they can possibly be paid. Now let's talk about fairness. In 2008, the top 1% of taxpayers, folks earning about $344,000 per year, earned about 17% of all income and paid 37% of all income taxes. As a class, they are paying their fair share. But the progressives are right that some individuals within this class pay less than their fair share because of their disproportionate access to tax loopholes. The progressives rightly want to get rid of some of these loopholes, and that's a good thing. But at the same time, they want to increase loopholes for others. They don't mind government picking winners among their friends. They just want to do the picking. Well, the Republican plan calls for the ultimate elimination of these loopholes while lowering overall tax rates so that no American pays more than 1/3 of their earnings to the government. That is fairness. The underlying problem that's destroying our nation's finances can be summed up with three simple numbers: 35, 33, and 76. 35, 33, 76. Between 2002 and 2012, population and inflation combined grew 35%. Now, despite the recession and the recent tax cuts, federal revenues have grown 33% in the same period. Very, very close. The third number is what is killing our country. 76% is the increase in spending. Twice the rate of our revenues, twice the rate of inflation and population growth. And by the way, has anybody seen a 76% increase in the quality of our roads or our institutions or our law enforcement or our border security? We've paid for it. We're not getting it. And that's what's out of control about this administration. No nation has ever taxed and spent its way to prosperity, but many nations have taxed and spent their way to economic ruin and bankruptcy. And when we're told this is the worst recession since the Depression, I remember a time much more recently when we had not only double-digit unemployment, but double-digit inflation, mile-long lines around gas stations, interest rates at 21.5%. That was the end of the Carter administration. Now, maybe we don't remember those days as vividly. It's because they didn't last very long. We elected Ronald Reagan, whose policies were very different than the current administration. He cut spending as a percentage of GDP. He cut the top marginal income tax rate from 70% all the way down to 28%. He reduced the regulatory burdens crushing the economy, and he produced one of the most prolonged periods of economic expansion in our nation's history. This isn't a partisan policy. Warren Harding, Harry Truman, John F. Kennedy, and most recently Bill Clinton all followed similar policies with similar results. Phil Gramm recently estimated that if the economy today had tracked with the Reagan economy, 17 million more Americans would be working right now, and income would be $5,700 higher per person. We need to choose wisely, Mr. Chairman, here and at the polls in November.
Gentleman from California, Mr. McClintock.